Okay, for the recording. All right, welcome back. We are ACI Course 10, Class 4, September 12th, 2025. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do, please. Bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them, encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing, and that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know. What we need to learn yet what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make the promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. So we're learning about this concept, Bodhisattva, and we're using Lord Maitreya's definition, the short one. I wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And we're growing our idea of what those words mean, but trying to pack it full. And then again, why do we want it? Oh, because there's pain in our life, right? There's suffering in our life, our own and others. And we are glimpsing how it is that we are perpetuating that suffering in our very worldly efforts to avoid it and to stop it and to change it. And then we realize not only we're doing that, but everybody's doing that. And something in our heart like goes, oh man, I wish I could stop it. And then in order to stop it, because we're understanding about karma and emptiness, we see we just need to stop planting the seeds that perpetuate samsara and plant seeds for growing that bodhicitta, right? Our wish to reach total enlightenment, the actual experience of that is also ripening results of past deeds. It's not outside the system. So if we don't have the direct perception of emptiness followed by that heart opening, or sometimes they come in the reverse, the heart opening first. If we don't have that every time we think bodhicitta, or I want to become Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, it's only because we don't have the seeds ripening for it. We have the seeds ripening for the thought in the words and some feeling in our heart, I really would like that. But we just don't have the seeds ripening for the actual experience. So that means we have some kind of obstacle. Not just one, right? Multiple obstacles. And so we learned in last class that we need to clear those obstacles and grow more goodness to get that bodhicitta to actually ripen. And so we need to do purification practices, not because Buddha said do purification practices, because we realize, right, that's the tool that I use to remove the obstacles to my goal. It's like same for wanting to achieve any worldly goal. If we've got blockers, you can't just keep pushing to achieve a goal. If you've got a wall in front of you, you've got to build a door and go through it. So we learned that in order for our purification practices to bring a positive result, we also need to gather the goodness and clear the obstacles to that. So it's sort of like we're going backwards. I'm not Buddha because I have obstacles and I don't have the goodness yet. Let me clear those obstacles, gather those goodnesses. Well, I'm not at the state of no mental afflictions yet. Why not? Because I have obstacles and don't have the goodness yet. Do you see? So it's really the same practices. Clear obstacles, gather goodness on every stage of the way. And here he's saying at the very beginning stage, even for our practices to clear obstacles to be successful, that's going to be a karmic ripening also. So we need the goodness for our ability to clear the obstacles so that we can gather the goodness to clear the obstacles, so we can gather the goodness to clear the obstacles. Do you get it? To better understanding, to kinder behavior, to seeing emptiness directly, to reaching nirvana, to reaching Buddhahood. Same system at every level. So what do we do to prepare so that our purification practice can actually be effective? We gather the goodness of making offerings, doing prostrations, and going for refuge. Because those are three acts where we can demonstrate to ourselves that we believe that these fully enlightened beings, what we mean by that, actually exist, actually know me, actually are aware of what I'm doing, so that I'm planting seeds in my mind for this humility and gratitude and reliance, devotion, for the power of those seeds made towards powerful karmic objects. So we do our refuge, prostrations, offerings towards the three jewels as what it means to, what it is, because they are our highest karmic ripening, our, sorry, I'm blanking out, our powerful karmic objects, right? So For a traditional Buddhist, the three jewels are Shakyamuni Buddha and one's Lama, this being we call one's Lama. But the same idea could be applied to whoever, whatever your highest karmic object is. Most moral, most loving, most wise. One could make offerings, do prostrations, and go for refuge in them. Okay? And the impact on the mind would be the same. So then lastly, last class, we talked a little bit about how refuge protects us and how it doesn't protect us. So refuge in those three jewels will not stop the oncoming truck from running you over, right? We can't hold the statue of the Buddha and make the truck stop. What we're learning by way of our study shifts our mindset about who to blame and what to get upset about in the face of some unpleasant situation, and technically in the face of any pleasant situation. When we understand, not just intellectually, but our reaction is at the level of my seed's ripening, it's happening. How I respond is going to create my future. We're functioning in this level of wisdom that will change how we interact with that circumstance. Does it stop the truck from running us over? No, but it changes our experience of what happens next. And, worldly, okay, so I get run over, I get hurt, I spend a lot of time in the hospital. But if I'm staying in my wisdom, that whole experience, instead of woe as me, becomes some kind of learning experience or, growing spiritually experience. It will be different than it was without that wisdom. And that's a kind of refuge, because we can experience unpleasant things and not actually suffer from them. Somebody once said, pain in life, in human life, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And it's only optional in the sense that it's our reaction. We can learn to have new reactions. We can't really decide we're not suffering when in fact we are. That's not the point. But we can get to the point where the suffering from something unpleasant doesn't have to be. We call that nirvana. All right, so this class is about the 4 practices of purification. But in order to understand those more deeply, we need to revisit the principles of karma. Because again, there's nothing in these practices we call the 4 powers of purification that in them, from them, can do anything for us. We want to remember that in our acts of doing purification, we are planting seeds to affect our mind in a certain way that will then affect our future experiences. So we need to understand what are called the 4 laws of karma, which means the 4 explanations of how reality works. It's not like somebody decreed these laws of karma. They are the explanation. So we know those 4 laws of karma. The translation of the actual Tibetan from the Sanskrit says the first law is karma is definite. We've learned that before. What it really means, that it is definite, that a positive mental seed will bring a pleasant result. And it is definite that a negative mental seed will bring an unpleasant result. So there are different ways that we can say that. Ordinarily, we would say, a good deed brings pleasant result. A bad deed brings unpleasant result. Even though in life, that does not seem to be true, right? We can do a good deed and somebody can get mad at us for doing it. But technically, those two experiences are not related. The result of your good deed will be a pleasant experience. But we'll see the pleasant experience as a result of your good deed will be somebody doing a similar good deed towards you, right? So it's, anyway, so karma is definite. Another way to say that is a kindness done must bring a pleasant result, and unkindness must bring an unpleasant result. A helpfulness must bring a pleasant result, a helpful result. And harmful must bring a harmful result. Second law, karma grows. The result is always bigger than the deed. You know, in nature, we see a tiny little tomato seed makes a huge tomato plant with so many tomatoes over its lifetime. And so when they say karma grows, they do say it grows bigger. They don't say it multiplies, but in that sense, one tomato with its many, many seeds made many tomato plants that made many more tomatoes. And one seed made one plant with many, many tomatoes on it. And in that way, our mental seeds grow as well. Right? So we can think of it as one deed bringing many results, but it's not like this one seed ripens and then ripens again and then ripens again. It's the way it ripens is bigger than tomato seed for tomato seed. It's not like that. It's tomato seed for plant. Okay? Then third is karma is consistent, is actually the word, and it needs explanation, so they often don't use that word. Karma is consistent. What it means is a deed not done cannot give a result. And, you know, we go, duh, but we often act or respond to a situation as if we expect to get results not having made the karma, or blaming something that's happening to us on something other than our karma. So we don't think so, but we do believe that we can get a result without having made the cause. Like before we know anything about karma, of course we believe that. Then the fourth one is karma is certain. And what that means is that a deed done must give a result, not the result, a result, because you don't know what the result's gonna be until that seed gets over the threshold into manifestation. It's changing, 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 changing until it ripens. And once it's ripened, the result is made, the seed is gone, done. So with every experience we have, when the experience is complete, that seed is gone. It was actually a series of seeds if the experience lasted longer than that. Once a seed ripens, it's gone. How we respond to it, right, is planting new seeds. Okay. Then, secondly, we want to understand or recall that definition of good karma, bad karma, neutral karma. So good karma, called virtue, that the definition of virtue is something, a seed planted, which in the short term brings a pleasant result, and in the long term brings freedom from suffering. Virtue. Non-virtue or negative karma is something which results in unpleasantness. They don't say short-term, long-term, because unpleasant is unpleasant. Doesn't matter when. Neutral karma, they say, is something which results in neither pleasant nor unpleasant, which I don't really understand neutral karma. I'm not sure I agree that there is such a thing. The point here, and it's kind of a downer, is that we can do a kindness for the wrong reasons, and it will be a good karma, but not a virtue, because it will ripen into a pleasant result that's worldly, which means a pleasant result that will end and leave us wanting for more or worse, which means we're creating that suffering of change, mostly with our worldly kindnesses. Now, that does not mean don't bother being kind in worldly ways, but it means we're not actually making virtue until we have the wisdom component behind why we are doing the kindness we are doing. And that's, of course, why we are making the effort to understand emptiness and karma better, so that we can grow that wisdom, so that we can respond to our lives with wisdom, so that we can actually make virtue that will move us along the path to the end of suffering ultimately. Okay. So with those two in mind, we'll talk about our 4 powers of purification. And Geshe-la was pointing out that in order for our efforts on our spiritual path to progress us along the path, we need to have all the parts, and all those parts need to be functioning. He says it's our spiritual path is very similar to a machine, like a car. A car has many, many parts. All those parts need to be functioning. Some are more essential to the function of the car than others, right? Your radio cannot work, and the car can still be very functional and reliable. But if your battery's iffy, you never know whether your car is going to start that day or not. So there are all these parts that make up your car. And when all those parts are functioning as they are meant to function, then you have a car that's reliable and you use it to get someplace. So all of these different spiritual practices that we're learning, they are all the parts of the car of our spiritual path to Buddhahood. And so we are applying them fully or accurately is having the parts that work in the analogy of the car. In the case of these 4 powers, it takes all 4 steps done completely and done with this high motivation of all that we're talking about, needing to clear out obstacles to gain the goodness, to be able to clear the obstacles to gain the goodness of wisdom in order to clear my selfishness, in order to be more kind, right? In order for the purification to actually damage those seeds that we're trying to clean out completely. So it doesn't mean that if we don't do our 4 powers absolutely perfectly, they don't do anything at all. It's that the more effectively we do those 4, the more effective is our purification. Lousy purification is better than no purification at all. We purify our seeds by experience. So technically, life is one long purification because everything we experience is results of past seeds, past behaviors. And once that seed is ripened, it's gone. That's a purification. So every ache, every pain, every it's too hot, it's too cold, that's all purification. And we could say, all right, then I'll just live life as my purification and I'll be kind in response to everything. So I only plant good seeds and that'll be enough. And eventually I'll stop all suffering. And that's true. But the key word there is eventually. And eventually is a long, long time if we simply use experience as purification. So fortunately, right, there's a tradition that says you can speed up the process if you're brave. And then you're still seeing life as a purification. And you're applying these 4 steps to engineer that, to engineer what's left inside there. Okay, so these 4 where's my share? These 4 steps, they're called the 4 powers, are the mechanism through which we can engineer our future. Bigger. In Tibetan, the 4 powers are called Dopshi. Shi is the word for the number 4. Dop is power or force. The 4 forces, they're called the 4 powers. 4 powers of purification. In Gyaltsab J's commentary on Master Shantideva's guide, he asked, where does this come from? To make sure that we understand that this isn't something Master Shantideva made up. And the commentary says, no, this was taught in the Chushi Tempe Do. Chushi Tempe Do. Do tells us it's a sutra. Sutra typically means that it was a teaching Shakyamuni Buddha gave at one point, and then somebody else wrote it down, as you recall. It's not always the case that a do is a sutra, but here's one where it is. Chushi Tempe Do. She is the same for. Tempe means the teaching. This Chushi Tempe Do is the sutra which teaches the 4 practices. Here, Chushi means 4 practices. So Lord Buddha gave a teaching once, probably more than once, that outlined this process of how to clean out our negative karmas instead of just waiting for them to ripen. It's also pointed out that there are scriptural references to doing purification practices. And one example is in the Diamond Cutters Sutra. If you recall, when we studied that, there's a series of verses where Buddha's pointing out that by studying the Diamond Cutters Sutra, which is a Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, you can expect unpleasant things to happen. And like he doesn't tell you that at the beginning of the sutra. We're 2/3 of the way through it. And he goes, oh, by the way, unpleasant stuff's going to happen to you by studying this sutra. And by then, we've probably already experienced it. Because the goodness of studying wisdom, studying emptiness, is like stirring a pot where the sludge has settled to the bottom and everything seems pretty clear. And then you study truths and it's like stirring the pot and the crap at the bottom floats up. But the thing is, the crap at the bottom floats up before it's grown big enough to pop up on its, what ordinarily would have happened. And that means, says the commentaries, a seed that would have sent you to a hell realm ripens in this life as a nasty headache instead. Or a broken leg, or a bout with COVID, or right, something unpleasant that comes up and passes. Because we've stirred it up sooner, it didn't have as much time to accumulate negativity before it ripened for us. So in doing the 4 powers of purification, when we do them strongly enough, we can completely damage a negative seed, a group of negative seeds, so that they can't ripen at all. Or we can stir them up sooner. And then our purification ripens as some lesser unpleasantness that comes up and passes. And that's successful purification as well. If we don't understand that, we could make the mistake and say, every time I do purification, something bad happens to me. And I've had students where they did their purification well enough to stir the pot, but not well enough to damage the seeds. And they just had one crisis after another. And they finally said, I can't keep doing this. It's just too hard. And then, they left. They left the Dharma. It's actually a good sign, because sloppier 4 powers doesn't seem to make much effect at all. It does. So sloppy 4 powers is better than no powers at all. But we're not going to see this result in our life without the 4 powers being done, very conscientiously and diligently. But then we run this risk. It's a good risk of, it seems like life's getting worse because I'm doing my 4 powers. And we want to keep in mind that it would have gotten way worse without the 4 powers over time. Okay. So here are the 4 forces, the actual 4. Again, we've learned them before, but I don't know that we've ever seen the Tibetan for them. So here's the Tibetan for the 4 forces. Nampar Sinjimpeto, Denkito, Nyempo Kuntu Chupeto. And then way down here is the 4th one. Nyepa Le Larndokpeto. Those 4 parts of this vehicle purification practice that all need to be there and functioning for our purification to be effective. Now, when we learn the 4 powers, sometimes we learn them in different orders. The first 2 can be reversed, and the second 2 can be reversed, but all 4 are not interchangeable, and we'll see why in a minute. Master Shantideva gives them in this order. The Nampar Sunjimpe Top comes first. Top means power. Nampar Sunjimpe, it's the phrase that means to rip out and destroy. It's intentionally harsh sounding. There's this force through which we can rip out and destroy those negative seeds that we're intending to clear out by way of the 4 powers. They translate this as the power of destruction, the force of destruction. And it is meant to give this connotation that we're reaching into something, grabbing the thing we want to reject, and like taking it out and like damaging it so much and then throwing it away, as opposed to, some kind of dainty, oh, I wish that wasn't in there. That state of mind's not going to do it. There needs to be some state of mind of, is why they use this Nampar Sunjimpe. In describing it, it's also called the power of regret. So Master Shantideva is pointing out, is this feeling that we're calling regret, when it's accurate, it has this Nampar Sunjimpe force. Right? Regret means I like the example they give. It's a metaphor, a story that they use to help us get a sense of the power of the regret they're talking about. And these 3 hot, tired, in a hurry guys stop in a bar for some refreshment. And the barkeep sees they're in a hurry. And what do you have? They say, oh, just that. They point to something on the wall. The barkeep grabs it, pours the drinks. They all salute and down the hatch. In the next instant, one guy seizes and drops over dead, and the other 2 are looking at him. And in the next moment, a second guy seizes and drop over dead. The third guy has regret, right? Not shame, not doubt, not guilt, just, oh my God, right? He regrets having drunk that stuff because apparently it caused the death of those two other people. He's not even thinking that through. He's just like, oh my God, I'm next in line, right? That sense of regret. When we're going through daily life, and I don't know, my daily life is the grocery store, which isn't really, I rarely go there, but it's where I interact with the most world, is at a grocery store. And it's like, you end up getting in somebody's way at the grocery store almost always. And getting in somebody's way at the grocery store, that's seeds for things like traffic jams and being late for doctor's offices and etc. And so, like, how alert am I to trying to stay out of somebody's way? And when I find myself in somebody's way, do I have the feeling of the third guy in the bar? Right? I just made a seed that's going to cause terrible traffic jams for everybody. Oh, I want to rip that out. No, I don't. Right? If I'm alert, I at least go, oh, I'm sorry. Right? And step out of the way. But you see, we are wanting this healthy sense of regret to be active in our mind stream as we're watching ourselves interact with our ordinary worldly life, to see where it is we're planting imprints in our mind that when they ripen, will ripen as something that would upset me in some way. The force of regret, when we're using it as part of a purification practice for a specific something, we turn on. When we're walking through life, a healthy sense of regret will help us prevent the strong planting of negative seeds that we do all day, because we are ordinary, ignorant humans, if you are, and I don't really know for sure. So this emotion of regret, they say it's the only negative emotion, meaning unpleasant emotion, that's actually a goodness. It's actually a virtue, they go on to say, because it's unpleasant to feel regretful, but it has such a powerful good effect. It ripens in a positive way because it protects us from fully planting those negative seeds. When we perceive ourselves thinking, saying, doing towards other, and then that particular interaction is finished, those series of seeds that we made have been imprinted. And they explain that it takes a certain amount of time for the seed to, they call it harden. It's not literal, of course, but for that seed to become complete enough by way of our sense of, yeah, I finished that. Yes, I'd do it again when the time comes. That takes a little while to set in. And then once that's set in, those seeds are in the queue to growing into their result. But in that time space between the interaction and the finishing the interaction, there's time where we could influence those freshly planted seeds in such a way that they don't ever get that hardening stage, and get into their cue to their result. And a healthy sense of regret is what helps prevent those seeds from getting hardened. It's really interesting. So to cultivate this self-awareness with this healthy regret for all of our errors, our ignorantly chosen responses, helps those seeds plant less effectively, which is what helps our purification practice get stronger, which helps our future ripenings be less complete. That's a little bit scary. Do we want incomplete seeds ripening? They won't, right? They're right. It changes. So this healthy sense of regret is worth exploring. It's so easy to slide into shame or self-doubt. I can't ever do this right. I'm constantly doing something wrong. What's wrong with me? I must be bad, right? Those are very common, normal human reactions. And none of that is what the regret is meant to cultivate. Regret would be a confidence booster, wise regret, to have that as part of our self-awareness. It would bring us confidence in our practices, actually. Okay, so the force of destruction. So there's multiple ways we're going to use our purification practices. One of them's going to be on the fly as we're going through the grocery store. The other way is to design for ourselves a consistent, self-contained purification practice where we do some kind of life review or world review and identify the negative seeds I know I've got in there and set about to purify them, like one set at a time. And that takes a little while to complete. And it's a, self-contained practice. And then the third way we use our purification practice is it's built into our meditation preliminaries. So if we're meditating daily, we are also purifying daily, even if it's in this, swift kind of cursory way. So in this regret section, when it comes first, as Master Shantideva shares, he's pointing out that suppose we're at the end of our day and we're thinking back and we realize, oh my gosh, I let myself yell back at my boss. And it really did seem like it worked because they changed their tune when I was done. And now I realize I planted these seeds for somebody to yell at me to get me to change my mind. And that's going to be unpleasant. And I regret it, right? I review, I see I planted seeds that will bring me a negative result. And oh, whoops, right? This, like a very baby level of regret, is just whoops. And so we generate this regret based on our understanding of the seeds that we planted. And we think, I don't want that seed to continue to grow. I don't really want it to even get a baby result. And our regret, even by the end of the day, it's a tool that takes the seed that's been planted and starts to damage it. And you can see why. I wish I hadn't done that, is what is regret. I wish I hadn't done that. And that's a seed planting with a certain vibration that's like the opposite of having done it, having been glad that we did it. I wish I hadn't done it is the opposite. I'm glad I did that. So you can see it's going to impact that seed. Master Shantideva says, if you don't have regret for what you're saying you're going to purify, you're not purifying, right? You're doing something else. So generate your regret first, then apply your refuge. So second one is refuge, dengti-do. This den, it's spelled with a T here. Sometimes we see it with a D, because in Tibetan, it's that letter that you can't tell the difference between a T and a D. It's like you say them both. Den. Your altar is your den. It means foundation, the force of the foundation or your basis. Force of the basis. It means that foundation that we push ourselves back up from when we've fallen down. We need something solid and firm to push ourselves back up when we fell down. If we fall into water, you can't push against water and then get up. If we fall into quicksand, the more we try to push, the more we sink. But if we fall on the ground, we can push ourselves up from the ground. That's this force. What's the force of our basis? It's our refuge. And what's really the force of our refuge? It's understanding karma and emptiness as demonstrated and taught to us by those three jewels. The emptiness of Buddha, the cessations in the mind of any being who has perceived ultimate reality, and those who have done it, who are showing us the way. So once we've generated our regret, oh man, I plant seeds that's going to come back to hurt me and slow down my progress and hurt other people. Man, I regret that. And then we apply this refuge, which we can say the words, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. But more effectively would be take refuge in karma and emptiness. Think about the circumstance and explain to yourself, you know, the boss was yelling at me again, blaming me for something I didn't do. Oh, right? I got hurt. I yelled back. When I apply my understanding, I realize that that boss yelling at me, my seeds ripening from having yelled at somebody else before, forced that boss to act in this way. It really didn't come from him or her the way I thought. My yelling back made new seeds, right? My regret, my boss's emptiness, my ripening seeds, my reaction to the boss also results of past reacting in that way. Just habit. That's the way karma ripens. But I fell for it again. Right? Doesn't have to be like that. I thought my yelling back would help. There, I'm mistaken again. I take refuge in understanding the emptiness of my response. It even seemed to give me a good response. But I understand with the karma that it's just going to bring me more pain and perpetuate the cycle. So use some kind of explanation to ourselves of understanding why that deed was a mistake. Not worldly mistake, but spiritual mistake. When we're doing our 4 powers, we're imagining we have our holy being before us, and we're telling them about our regret. We are telling them about our understanding of emptiness and karma as our foundation. The conclusion of our foundation force is nuts, right? I can learn to behave in a different way through which I can create a world where this never happens to anybody ever again. Force of foundation. Let's take a break. I'm pausing recording. There. All right. We're working on our 4 powers of purification. I did something, planted a seed that now I realize I don't want that seed in there. My regret. My force of foundation. I reestablish my understanding of karma and emptiness, and I realize that seed has just delayed my ability to help that one other in that deep and ultimate way, let alone every other, which is my professed wish to stop all the suffering of the world. I just delayed myself by that seed. So we reestablish our motivation, reestablish our wish by way of reestablishing our understanding in karma and emptiness that empowers our regret. Next, we want to apply some antidote force. Nyempo kuntu jupe dope. Dope means power. Nyempo means antidote, and kuntu chupe is this activity. I don't know why it's such a long word, but what this means is the force of the antidote activity, meaning we're going to do something to make up for what we did that planted the negative seed. And if we just intellectually think about it, it's like, if I yelled back at the boss because my feelings were hurt, the opposite would be, I would want to find some place in my world where I'm contributing to somebody getting their feelings hurt, and instead intentionally help their feelings feel good. So we would think, oh, as my antidote, I'll not yell back at the kids. That's true. But if the reason we yell back is because my feelings are hurt and I need to come back strong, then we address that someplace else. So we can go, I did that. What's the opposite? I'll do that someplace else to make up for the seed that I planted. But that's like a kind of a worldly application of our antidote force. It's helpful, but there are 6 scriptural recommendations for use as the antidote force for this negative seed. And it doesn't match the negative seed in any way, but they are all methods of influencing that negative seed in such a way that it loses its power to ripen. So here are the 6. They're not given in like order of effectiveness. Their effectiveness depends on how we apply them, of course. The first one they list is Do de Sampo La Tempa. La Tempa means to study. Zambo it means profound. And the term profound is one of those code words that means emptiness. Dode is the word for the sutras, meaning the words of the Buddha. So one antidote force we can choose to use is to study the scriptures on the profound, meaning the scriptures of the perfection of wisdom, like Heart Sutra, like Diamond Cutter Sutra, like I think it's the Sutra of Golden Light, right? We have many. We're what we have access to from the ACI land is Heart Sutra and Diamond Cutter Sutra. So when we decide, okay, I did this thing, I regret, I'm applying my antidote force, I will get out my Diamond Cutter Sutra and read it and park on one part of it and study it, think about it, maybe look at the commentary about it. And I'm going to spend 20 minutes studying my Diamond Cutter Sutra as my antidote power to saying that thing to David about my friend Joe, right? So suppose I said some critical thing to David about my friend Joe, and then I realize, oh my gosh, that's a seed I don't want growing. And I do my 4 powers, and my antidote force is get out my Diamond Cutter Sutra and study it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then when I'm done with that 20 minutes of intentional study as my antidote force, I know that that seed has been damaged. And as long as I apply the 4th force, I know that that will never come back to me. Right? So one way, study the scriptures on the profound. Another way, Tompa ni Gompa. Gompa means meditate. Tompa ni is one of those words for emptiness. Meditate on emptiness. Meaning, take your favorite emptiness meditation, intend to do it as your antidote force for those seeds planted from my saying that critical thing about Joe to David. And when I'm done with my emptiness meditation, however I've established it to be, know that that seed is damaged. And as long as I do my 4th power of restraint, it will be completely damaged. So of all of these recommended antidote activities, this one's the most powerful. And you can do an emptiness meditation on David, emptiness meditation on Joe, emptiness meditation on what I said, or emptiness meditation on my own self, or our favorite emptiness meditation on the emptiness of our teacher. An effective emptiness meditation is the strongest antidote to anything, because it gets us closer and closer to the direct perception of emptiness. Third option for antidote is Depa la Tempa. Depa is the word for repeat, repeat, repeat. So the practice of repeating. What it means is to recite mantra, recite secret mantra. In the Diamond Way, the practices that were given include mantra recitation. And it's a long story about why and how they actually work. And Herr Geshe-la pointed out that there are 2 aspects about secret mantra that makes mantra, that makes words mantra versus just ordinary old words. Mantra are typically in Sanskrit in their original language. But one can do a mantra in one's own language as well. Once we see these other components are included. So those components are that we know or understand that the mantra has been composed by a holy being, meaning some being that we perceive as ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, is who has stated to us these words, these sounds, when used in this way, can bring about a certain effect on us and our world, which means, right, certain words can be mantra for us and not for somebody else who doesn't see that being as anybody special, right? Somebody who is not inspired by Shakyamuni Buddha isn't going to be influenced by being told, oh, Buddha said, say Om Mani Padme Hum, and it'll help you, right? They're going to go, I don't think so, right? And they'd be right for them. And we'd be right for us. So first, the words were first given by a holy being. And then secondly, the person using those holy words needs themselves to have a pure heart and good motivation, meaning we need to have the goodness, the karmic goodness for using the sounds of those words to be effective in helping to grow that goodness. We can't use sacred words to grow goodness if we don't have any goodness there. They don't plant their own goodness. They contribute, they heighten the goodness we already have. So there's nothing in the secret words that can be the antidote, so that they can be the antidote when we use them intentionally to clear out the negativity that blocks us from making more goodness. The way we use them is we've set up the deeds that we're wanting to purify. We've generated our regret. We've generated our refuge. And we say, I'm going to do 5 malas of my Tara mantra as the antidote to those seeds planted by saying that nasty thing about Joe to David. And then I need to do them. I can't say I'm going to do them and never get around to it and think I've purified, right? All the parts need to be there and they need to be functioning for the car to run. But then once I do them, all right, those seeds are damaged by my mantra. Next one, Kusukla Tempa. Kusuk means the holy bodies, the practice of the holy bodies. What this means is that we can learn to make, we can learn to paint tankas, we can learn to make statues, we can learn to set up altars, and those kinds of creating physical manifestations of the Buddha jewel, that the goodness we do by that serves as an antidote. When we do it, established as the antidote in our 4 powers of purification. However, we would want to learn how to create those holy bodies accurately and precisely. So it doesn't mean that we can, I don't know, decide to make a paper mache Buddha as our antidote force. Unless we've had formal training on how to make a paper mache Buddha. Like, I remember I was getting a teaching somewhere, and I remember writing a side note in my notes. Don't doodle a Buddha, because you're seeing yourself draw a holy body imprecisely, inaccurately. And it's like, those are not seeds I want. I've gone on to do it myself, but like, learn to do it accurately, or don't use it as your antidote force. There's a practice called making tsatsas. TSA is the letter. And there are these little plaster molds, and you make plaster of Paris usually, and you put them in the mold and dry it or bake it. And then you get them out of the mold, and it's a, little tsasa of Tara or Chenrezi. And in some traditions, for your purification, your Lama will say, make 100,000 tsatsas of Chenrezi to purify that deed. And then you have 1,000 tsatsas of Chenrezi. What do you do with them? And then that's part of the practice is, you give them away, you put them in sacred places, right? It's part of the practice. But we need to understand how to make those tsatsas accurately. Okay. Next one, that was Kusuk. Chupala Tempa. Chupala Tempa. Chupa is that word for offering. We had it before as part of our preliminaries. The practice of making offerings. So before we were making offerings to gather the goodness so our purification can work. And now we would be making offerings as our antidote force in our purification. The offering practice can be the same, although before it was more something we were doing mentally in our meditation preliminaries, for instance. But here they would be the making physical offerings, like to actively go and put your offerings out on your altar, or take offerings to your local temple, or to your Lama. Doing so as an antidote force. Right? You can also make offerings for all kinds of other reasons. So what's on our mind by doing the offering is what uses the offerings as the antidote force. Last one. Sen La Tempa. La Tempa is the practice of. Sen means name. Here it means the practice of the holy names, the practice of reciting the names of holy beings. It's different than secret mantra, although often the secret mantra includes the name of a holy being. But this one is specifically reciting holy names as our antidote force. There's a whole practice called the 35 Confession Buddhas, where these 35 people, I guess, said, when I become Buddha, just by somebody saying my name, they will be purified of, and they gave a specific thing, 1,000 eons of thinking in this way, just by saying my name. And then it's been built into this practice of these 35 different names, and you recite them while you're doing prostrations, and you do each one 3 times plus 3 more extra, and you end up doing 108 prostrations, saying these 35 holy names, right? It ends up 108 holy names have been said as an antidote force for what we're purifying. And oh, by the way, you purify all this other stuff as well. It's a powerful practice when used with understanding, right? Powerful when used without understanding, more powerful when used with understanding. Geshe-la said, every being has a fully enlightened being that we are connected to. And I don't think he means that one-on-one, right? I think there can be a fully enlightened being who's connected to multiple as your special deity. It's called a yidam in Tibetan. Now, the term yidam means protector. And some yidams are not fully enlightened beings. Those are not the ones we're talking about. We call upon them for other stuff, but not for our purification. The yidam we're talking about is our personal, fully enlightened being who we are under the care of. And when we meet them, when we figure out who that is, that's the one whose practice we would do to meet, right? That's the one whose name we would recite as our antidote force. And in this tradition, in the Diamond Way, there are many different possibilities of deity practices that we could be initiated into. And they all have their different specialties. Geshe Michael's deity practice is Vajragini, so that's the lineage that he passes on. But there are others as well. And then maybe we, meet a couple and we do their practices and they're inspiring and great. And then somewhere along the way, we meet another one and it's like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be. This is mine. Right? This is my angel. The others are wonderful. Thank you very much. But I've found my connection. And then that being's name can be your San Latempa, your recitation of the holy name. You use your yidam's name, mantra, and it becomes an all-powerful kind of thing for us personally, right? And you keep it to yourself because you tell somebody else, oh, this one's the most powerful. And they're going to go, nah. Yeah, and then we hear that and our own belief kind of loses some power. Back when Geshe Michael and the others were in their deep retreat, when they would have a break time, twice a year they gave a program. And it would happen in the wash in the desert, the dry riverbed in the desert. And they would come out blindfolded. The only one we ever saw was Geshe Michael. The rest were behind a curtain. And then he would give teachings, which weren't, I don't think their recordings are available for those teachings, but the transcripts have been made into books. And I think it was the first one that somewhere along there, he gave us a mantra. He gave us the transmission of a mantra. And that mantra was Om Arya Sumati Dharma Dara Hom. And I was too new. I didn't know what it meant. And I don't remember anybody telling me what it meant. But then over time, it's like, wait a minute. Sumati Dharma Dara is Lobsang Chinsen, and that's Geshe Michael's monk's name. He was giving us his name mantra. The Om and Ahung is what makes a mantra. And then Arya means, right, realized being. Om Arya Sumati Dharma Dara Hung. And it's like the whole group was singing it, but I didn't know what it meant. And it's like, whoa. He was giving to his personal deep students this tool to use for their purification. It went completely over my head for a long time. But so when you meet your heart lama, Ask them for their name mantra. And maybe they'll give it to you, maybe they won't. But if they do, it becomes a really powerful tool for our purification practice, for our merit gaining practice. And it takes deep study to understand why that can be true. Right? So I'm just planting the seed for you. So these are the 6 classical antidote powers that we apply to our purification practice, but we've got a 4th one. And the 4th one is what makes all the others' effectiveness stick. Without the 4th one, our first 3 plant some goodness that's going to ripen as a goodness and wear out. Adding the 4th piece is what really damages the seed and makes purification be. Cut those seeds. Nyepa lale, nyepa le lang dope top. Top is power. Nyepa means negative deed, bad deed, wrong deed, harmful deed. Le lang dope means to turn away from. To turn away from the bad deed power, meaning the power of restraint. We can't do a negative deed, generate regret, go for refuge, do an antidote, and then go and do the deed again. Like, what are we saying to our own mind by way of doing our 4 powers if we just do the deed again? The commentaries say, look, you're lying to yourself if you let yourself repeat the deed after having said you're wanting to purify it. Lying to ourselves ripens as being lied to in my world. Oh my goodness, I just gotta connect. Just a minute. Okay. So the power of restraint. You could debate the power of restraint's more powerful than the antidote. And it's like, no, it can't be more powerful. But it's the gas in the car, worldly wise. So they say, when we're applying our 4th power, make it something you can actually do. So there are some things that we do our purification about, like some deed from this life, that life circumstances are such that we'll just never be in that circumstance again. And so we can honestly say, I will never do that deed again in this lifetime. And, not do the deed, actually do that power of restraint. But for most things that we're trying to purify, life circumstances could come up again. And when we're working on purifying habits, it's going to come up, probably in the next 2 hours. So when we're doing our power of restraint for like some habitual, mental criticism, for instance, and we're trying to purify that, we say, okay, my power of restraint is going to be when I get to line dance this afternoon, I'm going to really carefully watch my mind. And in the first 5 minutes that I'm there, I'm going to interact with every one of those ladies to mentally compliment each one that I see as the antidote to the way my mind ordinarily goes. Wow, that outfit looks weird. I don't say it, but my mind thinks it. Constant judgmental. that I'm trying to purify. I know I can only hold it for 5 minutes. So I'm going to do that. And then when I get there, I need to do it for those 5 minutes for my purification, whatever I was working on, to be effective. If I can't do 5 minutes, I'll say, okay, for the first minute, I'm going to compliment everybody I see. And then I need to do it. So the art of the power of restraint is to come up with things you know you can achieve, things you're already good at, things that you can do, and use them in a finite period of time as your power of restraint. Find some things. They don't have to match what you're purifying. It's helpful if they do, but some power of restraint that you can actually apply. It takes some thinking about it to learn how to do it. Without it, we're not effectively purifying. With it, whoa, fasten your seatbelt. Things will change. So one way of doing our 4 powers is to do them in meditation. And we have them built into our meditation preliminaries. And then we can also do them like intentionally. I'm going to sit down and do a 4 powers, establish my antidote force and do it right then. And then my power of restraint comes later, probably. Or we can be doing our 4 powers on the fly. And we're, engaged in life. We've got this mindset of watching. And when we do something that it's like, oh, nuts, that's going to come back to me ugly, I regret it. I recall my refuge, my bodhicitta, karma and emptiness, just like in the words. And I already choose some power of restraint and then establish some antidote force that I'll do later. Do you see how the order can change? They tell this story of Lord Atisha, and he traveled all around. And they said he was watching his mind so carefully that when he noticed even a thought that he had that he didn't want to continue, he'd say, stop, stop, stop. And he'd get down off his horse and he'd unpack his stupa and he'd do a 4 powers right there in front of his stupa until he got himself cleared. And then he'd go, okay, let's go on. And Geshe Michael said, it probably took a long time to travel with Lord Atisha. But that would be me. It would take a long time to get anywhere. I think Lord Atisha, maybe it wasn't so bad. But that's how on it he was. And that's how important it was. Wait, time out. Hopefully everybody who was traveling with him did their 4 powers at the same time. So Master Shantideva, in his chapter, he's going to go into a little bit more about regret. Because that's really the driving force, isn't it? If we do a deed we don't regret, there's no reason to purify. It won't occur to us to want to purify. So the starting point is this recognition that I've got some force inside of me that's growing in ugliness, that when it brings its result, it's going to be awful in little ways or awful in big ways for not just me, but for everybody in my world. So he's giving us these different factors to look at to help us grow our regret. Again, regret, not guilt, not shame, not self-doubt, not, oh, I'm so bad. Pure, healthy regret. So he says, in order for that regret to be generated in the way we're trying to describe, healthy, virtuous regret, we need to understand the 3 results of karma, 3 ways that karmas ripen. Karma meaning those mental seeds we plant by the deeds we see ourselves do. We understand that our own awareness of what we think, say, and do towards other is imprinted in our own mind stream. And those imprints carry along, gaining power, losing power, gaining power, losing power, until something happens, they get over the threshold into manifestation. And when they do, we experience their result. And that result, as we know, is similar to the deed done. And it's similar in 3 ways. So karma ripens. The 3 ways are called the ripened result, the consistent result, and the environmental result. What they mean by the ripened result is that at the last moment of this life, the body dies, the mind stream is still ripening, planting, ripening, planting, ripening, planting. There will be a seed that ripens the next moment after the last seed for this life ripens. And that seed colors the next experience, right? Just like every seed that ripens is the experience. It's called the projecting karma. So the next seed after the moment of death is the one that projects us, pushes us into our next lifetime, what we perceive as our next lifetime. We don't have any power over which seed ripens at that moment, most of us. So we are at the mercy of the seeds in our mind at the moment of death. They say what's on your mind at the moment of death, right, is what ripens. But those words don't convey what's going on. Geshe says, think of it like in the old days, the lottery, was this big round vessel, and they had, ping pong balls with numbers on them. And the air was blowing underneath, and the ping pong balls were doing this, and there's a little hole on the top, and then one pops out. So he says, think of it like that. But instead of numbers, our little lottery balls are either black or white. And the black ones represent the seeds that we planted selfishly. And the white ones are the seeds that we planted not selfishly. So let's call them gray ones, not selfishly. And maybe there are actually a few really white ones, actually pure ones, and they're all bouncing around. So think of life, just this life, let alone all past lives. How many of those seeds are black ones, colored with me, me, me? How many are gray ones, me, 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 but taking care of somebody else? And how many are actually white, pure ones? 0. And it's just a numbers thing. If we've got more black seeds than gray or white seeds, the likelihood of a black seed popping out of the lottery bowl at the moment of death. It's just the likelihood is greater. And understanding that black seed will ripen us into a lifetime not like this one, not with the Dharma, not with the capacity to study the Dharma, not the interest, probably something more like a hell realm, hungry ghost realm, animal realm. And the gray balls, the good ones, but not really pure ones, could even ripen us as a form or formless realm being. But those aren't effective for our spiritual path either. So we don't want anything but a gray ball that would send us to another human realm. If we've only got 5 human realm seeds and we've got 16 billion other realm seeds, what's the likelihood of getting one of the 5 to go? You know, it might happen. And that's his point, is when we understand the ripening result can send us to a realm other than another human realm, our regret is grown, right? Oh my gosh, I need to do something about that before I die. We're going to get there. Second is called consistent result. That has 2 aspects to it. One is the consistency is that we experience something similar to what it is we did, right? That's typically how we think of karma. I yell at the boss. Somebody's going to yell at me. I'm going to yell at the kids. The boss is going to yell at me, right? Similar response comes back to us, similar experience. Also, in this consistent result is we have the habit of doing it again. Not just the habit, but the belief that it's what we should do, right? That's what works. When, of course, it doesn't work, even when it seems like it works. The third is the environmental result. And that means what your circumstances are like, right? Including the people around us is actually part of the environmental result. And in the old days, if you remember, all of those examples were from an agrarian society. So they're about how the crops grow or not and so forth. And nowadays we would need to apply that to, you know, how available is stuff in the grocery store, or, you know, the traffic jams and our ability to communicate. We would need to extrapolate to those kinds of things. So understanding that our next life is driven by the seeds we've got planted, our experiences in our future, this future and future lives, are driven by what behaviors we're making seeds from. And the whole way the world will be, the environment of the world will be, is driven by what seeds we plant. Now it's like, oh, oh man, I've got lots of seeds in there that I wish I didn't have. I wish I didn't have. I wish I didn't do those things. I wish I knew better back then. That's regret. And we want to grow that regret to the point of wanting to reach in there and rip them out and throw them in the fire, which is quite a bit stronger than, oh, I wish I didn't do that. But we start from just recognizing the power of those negativities that we have. Master Shantideva says, like, why do we ever do a deed that's harmful? And it's because we think that the deed we're going to do is going to help us get what we want. We really aren't thinking so much, is that harmful? Is that helpful? We're thinking, right? I need this. I don't want that. How do I get it? how have I been taught to behave in the world? Not like somebody said, sit down and yell back at that person, but meaning, right, how we have evolved to behave. Master Shantideva points out that he doesn't just say, look, things don't work the way you think. He says all those things that you are behaving towards others in ways that are not so kind to get what you want, all those things that you think are bringing you happiness, they're just going to leave you wanting for more. You are just going to lose them, right? Your belief that they are what brings you happiness is so mistaken that you've just done something negative to get what you want, and you've just hurt yourself and others in the process. He says, and then you're just going to lose it all anyway. So come on, right? Recognize the willingness to be harmful. That goes with you. The stuff that you got by it, or seems to have gotten by it, doesn't go with you. You lose it in the end. So what's the point in doing anything to try to get anything? And he doesn't mean, okay, just stop doing anything. He means, let's do things wisely to get what we want. He has 3 arguments. I'm going to give you the third one next because the second one takes longer. The third one is, oh, wait, so let me get the first one more succinct for your homework. He says, we grow our regret by realizing that we do wrong deeds to get what we want. We don't think they're wrong deeds. That's why we do them. But they are wrong deeds because they will bring suffering back to us. And we don't realize that. And when we do, regret. Third one, we do those deeds on behalf of our body, taking care of our body. We do those deeds on behalf of helping our friends and family in some way. And we do those deeds on behalf of our stuff, our things. And all those things that we do harmful deeds in order to help them or protect them, they all disappear at the time of our death. But what goes with us, of course, are the seeds we planted in our mind on behalf of those beings. They disappear. Our mind stream goes on. So we might even say, oh, I'm willing to steal that money so that I can have the money to help my Aunt Mary, you know, who needs something. Because it's a higher deed to help Aunt Mary, right? Than to take money from somebody who has so much that they won't even notice, right? We would justify that as a good deed because I'm doing it to help Aunt Mary. In the process, I'm planting seeds in my mind, justifying stealing from somebody in order to help somebody else. The somebody else I helped disappears when this life is gone. But my mind stream with the willingness to steal to help somebody, that seed's continuing to grow in my mind. This mind, not my mind, because Sarani's gone. This mind. That's going to ripen in those 3 ways. if one of them ripens as my projecting karma, it's going to color me into a whole lifetime. Probably not human, probably hungry ghost or hell realm. If that's not it, and it ripens in the consistent result, people will do unkind things to me in the name of helping somebody else. And I will have the habit of doing unkind things on behalf of other people. And then my whole environment is going to reflect that, which would be in some way, I don't know, what comes to mind is it looks like the fruit in the grocery store looks so delicious and wonderful, but when I get it home, it just tastes terrible or it's rotten inside. Like my environment lies to me as well. My environment gives me a wrong result in the face of something that looked good. So why am I going there? He says, generate regret for any negativity that we planted in our mind, justified by doing it to so-called help somebody else. He doesn't mean don't help other people. He means don't be willing to make a negative seed on behalf of somebody else, because the somebody else is going to disappear and the seed is going to stay. Help the other person in ways that plant seeds that grow into positive results that allow us to help beings more and better. So we generate regret by realizing that we have done wrong deeds on behalf of others, thinking that it was okay. All right, the third one. He adds, he says, generate regret out of fear that you might die while you still possess the karma of these negative deeds. And for this one, he says, think about somebody who was caught for stealing. In the olden days, the punishment for stealing was they'd cut off your hand. You're right-handed, they cut your right hand off. And you've been sentenced to that, and the day has come. And if you see that prisoner, they are hysterical, beside themselves with terror. Gonna get the pain of getting their hand cut off. He said, witness that person. Imagine that's you. And that terror that you're feeling, it is infinitesimal compared to the terror of dying, of everything being ripped. Like dying, the process of dying is not just your hand being cut off, but your whole body, your personality, everything you know is being cut from us. And if it happens unprepared, it's terrifying. It's terrifying because the seeds are also full of me, 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 me. And me is disappearing. The me we relate to is disappearing. And it's like we have no control. If his premise is, if we are nicely purified of those negative seeds, that fear of dying, that terror, does not ripen. Our whole mind experience, our own self-identity is so different that the whole experience called death is different. And once we get some glimpse of that, when we understand that we are going to die, and although we think we've got plenty of time because I expect to live to be, in my 90s, we don't know for sure, do we? And in fact, 4 minutes of our airways plugged off and this body won't survive. We don't know. We even have today. So, when we add that to the picture, it's like, oh my gosh, I could die with still a lot of negative seeds in me. And that's going to really delay my progress. And so I regret, not even having applied my purification strong enough to this point, right? Generating this healthy regret that makes us want to apply our purification. Then fourthly, he says, for generating regret, study the karmic consequences. Learn them well enough so that you can do your own extrapolation. Oh, I just did a deed that fits into this of the 10 non-virtue. And I've learned from scripture the result of that non-virtue is this kind of experience in life. So, oops, I regret that deed. Okay, learn your karmic consequences. Someone finally asked, oh, I'm sorry. I'm pulling out of my bank of extra minutes. It won't be long. Someone asks, are the 4 powers effective for all types of bad karma? There are schools that say, no, there are some things you can't purify, like the 4 immediate misdeeds. Sorry, the 5 immediate misdeeds, because they say those are deeds done that are so bad, you absolutely go to the lowest hell as a result of them. And there are deeds done that are called deeds done that are both committed and collected. You can't purify those. And then Master Shantideva, and in the commentary, says, no, Buddha in the scripture says even karma that's committed and collected can be purified, and so can deeds like the 5 immediate misdeeds can be fully purified if we apply all 4 of the forces effectively. So even killing mother, killing father can be purified, which is a huge thing. There's nothing that cannot be purified. Thank goodness for that. Okay, let's do our dedication, Konglei. I'll come back to you after we're done, okay? So people can go. So remember that person that we wanted to be able to help? We've just learned this huge piece about how we work with our own mind full of karmic seeds in order to be able to help that other in that deep and ultimate way. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself and think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Grow your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. Okay, thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. I will see you Monday morning. Kongli has great questions. If you want to stay for it, you are welcome. But you're also welcome to leave because time's up.
Just normal question.
A normal
Teacher,
question.
just now you said there are 35 names. Is it Buddha's name? 35.
They are all Buddhas. They are all Buddhas, yes.
Okay. Is it possible that I can have them? And then this one is a mantra. We can do mantra on this, isn't it? And then you say that they are rosary. 108. Is it connected to the rosary that they are altogether 108
Yeah,
dots?
everything is connected to everything. So yes, it is a
Correct.
practice that you should learn from somebody who knows how to do it, as opposed to just, here's the list of the 35, I'll just read them. It's not by initiation, but it's helpful to get the oral transmission of the practice, to use that practice. And we could do that. It takes a
Okay.
couple hours to learn how to do it.
A couple of hours. Oh, okay. And then I'm just curious that, there are 35 Buddhas, and
Right.
then who are there, So normally we'll say that Shakyamuni and then Amitabha, and normally our mantra Amitabha's name. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I like that.
These are ones I had never heard of before once I learned them.
Uh-huh.
But they are
Oh,
35 specific Buddhas. Yeah.
oh, okay. So can we learn that? Yes.
All right, we'll do it. Remind
okay.
me. We need to
Okay.
find time.
Yeah,
Separate.
but sorry. You say first. You say first. No, 108, because if let's say 35 times 3 is supposed to be 105. And then the
Right. So
3,
then you do 3 more to make 108. So that's
what do you
why I'm
mean?
saying there's a method to doing the practice, that you end up doing 108 prostration.
Right. Okay. So
Times through the 35 plus 3 other during your refuge.
oh, okay. So you want us to remind you when is it
Yeah,
of
we need to
finish the
find a time.
class?
Yeah, we
Oh,
just sometime nag me. Right now my schedule's too full, but it'll open up.
There
okay.
is, I don't know if this is like outside the pale or something, but Lama Zopa Rinpoche has that practice in a way that's available if you want
Yeah,
to
good point. Good
look
point.
before we get to it.
In their FPMT website, it can be downloaded. Is there a recording of him teaching
There
it?
is, I think it was Thupten Chodron has an oral thing of
Okay.
it that I made a video to.
Okay, there you
So
go.
if you ever want to
Reach out
review
to
that
Chris.
and see if it's cool it might be easier than doing the whole things ourselves. I don't know, just an idea.
If you're in a hurry, Kongli, reach out to Chris.
Okay.
Otherwise, put it on the list to keep asking and we'll find a time. Okay, 2-hour extra practice for 35 Confession Buddha.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay.
I have a question too. When are you done, Kongli?
Yes. Can you go ahead?
I was wondering in terms of how does intention to just communicate or humor fit into the planting bad seeds? Because in my own life, I realized that about 3 times I have a new choir director, and 3 times I've tried to communicate my experience of the way things are going in a way that was, I thought was funny, but but there's like a
Ah, you froze. That's always so significant when they freeze in the middle of an explanation.
line for my full stop, right? And then I listened to myself after doing it 3 times going, oh my goodness, that
Yeah.
was terrible.
Yeah.
So, but my intention wasn't to like say, I want to kill him. So is that just like a mitigating thing in terms of like, but it's still a bad seed?
Yeah. So, intention really is a powerful thing in karma planting, and it colors the karma. So, but that's so dangerous because like, well, I intended to do this to become a Buddha, so it doesn't really matter what I do because my intention is so high. Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous.
Yeah.
Technically true, but we would use it in the wrong way, wouldn't
It
we?
more like washes out your other good things than
Yeah,
making that one thing okay.
yeah.
So it's not worth it, right?
It's still gonna come back to you, right? So suppose I have my intention so high, I think that I justify stealing from the wealthy person to take care of my Aunt Mary. That's still gonna come back to me as somebody with a high intention stealing from me to take care of somebody else. Am I gonna like that? Right? And if we can honestly say, yes, I would like that, then your deed wasn't a bad deed. But we can honestly say, I'll like that when it happens. And then we get to when it happens and oops. Right?
Like
So that's
I think
the danger.
if my choir director heard me saying that, would he feel good? Would he think it was funny? And I'm
Exactly.
like, and then I felt shame,
Right.
So I'm
right.
confessing.
Right. So, but change the shame to the three guys in
Regret.
the bar. Oh, regret.
Yeah.
Right. So that we can carry on. But what you said was adding that piece. How's this going to affect them now? We don't know. We're doing our own idea. If I were him and somebody said this to me, would I think it was funny? Would I enjoy it? Would I, right? And then act. And then, right? It makes us be a bit one step removed from our engagement with others because we need this heightened awareness of how we're gonna act. And this thought, if I'm on the receiving end, is this something I really want to do? And then adjust it and act. The place to start really is with our communication. Emails and texts, we have time to stop and think. If I were the one reading this in all the different ways, right? It takes me a long time sometimes to answer somebody's question because it's like, what if they misunderstand it? What if they misunderstand this? What if? And I still get it wrong oftentimes. But this heightened sense of you being on the receiving side of your own behavior is really helpful in our choice-making behavior.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's so empowering when we can get in that space of awareness to be so consciously choosing our behavior. At first, it feels so restrictive. Oh, I can't be authentically me. Right, authentically me is an ignorant, selfish slob. I don't want to be authentic me. Do you know that term, to let your hair down? It means when you have your hair tied up, you're on your best behavior. And then it's such a strain to be on best behavior that you finally get home and you let your hair down. It's like, ah, I can be me. But the problem is, again, me is me, right? So it's like the Buddhist tradition is teaching us to, right, have our hair up all the time,
Shave your head.
right? Be on our best behavior all the time. And at first it feels like a strain and a struggle. But then we realize, oh my gosh, my best behavior feels the best, actually. And then, right, it becomes our natural behavior. And then hair up, hair down, it's all the same. Right? Because our behavior is so fine-tuned to be aware of its impact on the other. Is it the actual impact on the other? No, we don't know how our deeds impact the other. How we perceive it impacting them is part of our seed planting. So that's where the intention comes in. It's like I'm trying to make me be a pleasant experience for them. If it isn't that, when I've tried for it to be that, all right, that's a ripening result when somebody was being kind to me and I reacted badly. Have I done that? Absolutely. You know, so it's no surprise that I could do something kind for somebody and they not appreciate it, because I've done that to people. And so when we're understanding that nuance of our interaction, we want to be, right? We want to be on our best behavior all the time. And then it's not a strain, it's not an effort so much. Yeah. Nice. Thanks for digging into these things. All right. I will stop the recording. 35 Confession Buddha. On a Saturday? Anybody have a Saturday? Saturday's free. Kongli, that would be Sunday for you. Yeah.
Sunday, is it?
You're
This
Sunday now?
Sunday, so
No,
that's
you're not
fine.
Sunday now. You're Saturday. Okay.
Me?
All right. Keep nagging me. We'll find a
Oh.
time. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. I'm stopping recording.
Bye-bye.
Yes.